Bob here, and it is hot in Guthrie, Oklahoma. H-O-T-T-T hot. And so I'm not getting a lot done. Yesterday I did get a little bit done. Basically I managed to soak 2 complete outfits, 2 shirts, 2 pants. Basically had to wring them out before I put them in the washing machine. It is hot. Anyway, I thought I would do a real quick video, kind of give you a insight as to what's going on here at Chopper Bob Customs and what's coming up. Let's start with the 58 Delray and kind of give you an update on where I am with it. As you saw in the previous video, hopefully you saw the previous video. If you saw the previous video, please like it, subscribe, comment, hit the notification button so you know when things are coming back up on Chopper Bob Customs. If you haven't watched it, shame on you. You need to go watch that video, because basically I tear the door apart and find out what the guys in, I think it was Georgia, did to patch this car together and get it shipped. And I got the window rolling up so that it rolls up correctly. But what we've got going on here, took all 3 of the AC hoses off. We had one of them leaking oil at the compressor, and took them up. We thought about just trying to recrimp the ends, because what I did was I took the parts that came on the car. They were excessively long. I cut them to length and put new ends on one end of each hose, and it turns out that the crimps weren't that great on their ends. And we thought about it, and we decided the best thing to do would be just go ahead and put 3 new hoses on it. So I got him making 3 new hoses, and the good news on that is I got a call shortly before this video saying that they're ready to pick up. So after lunch I'm going to go grab them and bring them down and probably get them installed tomorrow morning when it's a little bit cooler. Okay, Summit has acknowledged the receipt of the fan I had to return. No fault on their part. It was strictly my brain fart. I ordered a pusher fan instead of a puller, and there you have it. But they said it can take up to 5 business days to process the exchange, so it's probably going to be sometime next week before I have the fan, and therefore I'll get the hoses put on the AC to get it sealed up, but I probably won't evacuate it and recharge it until I get that new fan in there. The other thing that I knew it was coming back for was to get the fuel injection set up now that the new exhaust is on the car. Once again, Steve up there at More Power Muffler in Guthrie did a fantastic job on the exhaust on this. Now that it's done, I want to get everything set so that it's running right. I also want to check, make sure we've got the belt throwing situation taken care of. And then of course when it got here, we blew a fuse really bad on the Phytech relay fuse box, and we're discussing with them now diagnosing this problem to see if maybe there was a reason for this to happen other than the fuse box. So Robin is going to be calling them. I talked to them. I've sent them a detailed thing about what the car is, and you know, it's got a new tank. The Phytech fuel pump was installed in the tank per the instructions. It's got brand new 3/8 line, hard line, steel line running front to back. It's got dash 6 braided stainless steel line running to the engine from the hard lines and from the tank to the hard lines. And it's got a fuel filter in it, so, and it's not excessively, they say 10 microns, actually it's a little bit bigger than that, it's 30 microns, so it's not a restriction problem on the unit. So we're going to see what happens, and I'll keep you informed on what's going on there. Hopefully we'll have this up and running. It runs great, and it ran great getting here. It's just when it pulled into my driveway it quit running, and the fan wouldn't run and the fuel pump wouldn't run. And anyway, that's where we're at on that. And then this will be going back to the owner, at least for a while, until he decides what he wants to do to the rear end on this. and it's got a transmission leak at the speedometer, but we want to see how everything's functioning before we start addressing those issues. And then yesterday, one of the reasons why I soaked my clothes was I managed to get my Altered in out of the trailer, got it in the shop. The thing about this Altered is it was originally like a late 60s, early 70s funny car. And those cars have what I call a square cage. It's almost like a door slammer cage. It's got a wide front hoop, it's got a slightly narrower back hoop, and it's tied together with cross bracing. And that's what they ran for a cage on them back in the day. And the other thing was that the headers actually went between the engine and the frame and came out the side. So because of all that, the frames on these are really, really wide. And the previous owner had, well, actually the previous owner had put aluminum panels on the car to sort of make it look like a Model T. It sort of looked like a Model T. But when I went out there and started researching it, because I wanted a body that looked like something identifiable, the Model Ts are really too narrow for this car, which would have meant I'd had to get a Model T body and widen it, or I would have had to have gotten one of the ones that are wide to begin with. And the problem is that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to have to cut it up and glass it back together, and then you end up with a fairly heavy body. And the 32 Bantam body is wide enough for this. And so I started looking for those, and those actually pop up from time to time used, and actually at pretty good prices and in pretty good shape. And I worked a deal on this. It was actually two bodies. It's a new one back there, body that's in really, really good shape. And then there was this one that had been mounted before, and it's kind of rough, but I'm in the process of getting it sorted out. The idea was that I'd figure out how to mount it with this one, and then I'd go ahead and use it as a pattern to cut up the new body. And the more I cut on this, the more I decided to see if I can't patch up this old body and save that new body for a frame that might be better suited to it. So I've gone ahead and I've cut the aluminum panels down that surround the driver, the tonneau cover. I'm in the process of working on that. I've got the outer panels cut, and I've got them semi-pop riveted in place. I didn't want to put all the pop rivets in because just in case I have to take them back out, I didn't want to destroy and take all the time to drill them out. But if you'll notice, I don't know whether you can see that in the video or not, I did go ahead and put the rivets in so that I was sure that when it does come time to assemble it, if I can leave the rivets in there that I put in, that those will go into place. So we're getting there on that. I am going to have to move the shifter back because it interferes with this body, and then I'm going to have to fill this gap in. I've got some 032 aluminum that I'm going to be building, and that's going to be one of those things where actually what I was hoping to do today was make some hammer forms and hammer some pieces for filling in the gaps on the firewall. Actually, it's the motor plate that acts as a firewall. But that video is going to be coming up where I'm going to be hammer forming some aluminum and filling in the gaps, and then I'm going to be making the panels to fill in the big gap there all the way around. And then I've got to get it mounted, and I've got to do some repair work at the back where they kind of damaged it. But so those things are coming up on fiberglass work. Also the center panel right there, I need to trim it to fit and get it in place. And the thing about that is I'm going to be mounting the oil pressure gauge and the temperature gauge in a different location than it was when I got the car. And I've also got a switch panel to mount in there so that I have switches that I like better than what they had in the car when I bought it. So this is coming along. The other thing that I did, and I'll show you that in a minute. Of course, to get this in here, I had to clean up some debris from the previous 3 cars I had in here, got the shop all cleaned up, and I thought I was in good shape. and then an opportunity presented itself, and now the shop's sort of a wreck again. So this, I have in mind a project, and it's going to require a 4-cylinder engine, and I'd like to have a manual transmission, 5-speed preferably. And so what I was looking for was a 2.3 Ford, a 2.5 Chevrolet, something like that. What I really wanted was an engine with a distributor and with a carburetor. Well, this one popped up on Marketplace, and it was basically everything I wanted, except it is an 8-plug cylinder head, it doesn't have a distributor, and it's fuel injected. And so I sent him a text asking if that was the case, and he confirmed that that was the case. And so I kind of forgot about it. I decided I didn't want to make the trip out there. It was a good price, but it wasn't completely what I wanted, and I thought, just hang on and wait for the right one to come along. Well, my good friend Uncle Dirtbag of Uncle Dirtbag's Garage, you need to check out his YouTube channel, Uncle Dirtbag's Garage. He hasn't posted anything lately. He had a 55 Chevy that he was doing a 4-door to 2-door conversion on, and he's got a lot more views than I do. But then he sold the car, and now he's not posting anymore. But go check out Uncle Dirtbag's Garage. And at any rate, so he sends me the link to this ad. And it's like, oh. So I got hold of the guy. I said, you still got it? And can I come take a look at it? And he said, yeah, I still got it. And so we made arrangements. And so I went out there yesterday afternoon, and we worked a deal. And so here it sits. And the thing about it that he actually didn't have in the ad is, and it's still out in the truck, he has the ECM for it, and he has modified it to run in an older car. It was actually running in a 51 Chevrolet. And so, you know, I basically got a lot of parts, and I got it at a price that, you know, I can't go wrong. I have told Uncle Dirtbag that if I've blown that money, it's on him, because he's the one that kind of instigated me getting it. But at any rate, I'm looking for the body now, because I've got a plan for what I want to do with this. And Chickasha is coming up in October, and hopefully between now and then, or at Chickasha, I can find what I'm looking for so I can get a car put together this winter. I've got plans for Chopper Bob Customs. And so basically everything got kind of dumped into this bay, and I got to figure out how I'm going to store it and where I'm going to store it. The motor mounts are kind of weird, and it wants to roll over to the left side every time I set it down. So I've got some thinking to do, and I got some moving around to do to get this stuff out of here. The thing I was going to point out about the Altered is I picked up this radiator at an auction, and I've got a fiberglass Model T grill shell to put around it, but this was just a little bit wide, and it was also damaged a little bit. So I cut the wings off, and I need to get those trimmed up, get it to the right width, and get it welded back together so that I can fit the shell to it and then fit it into the chassis. My hope is, we had some difficulty welding aluminum on a Rock and Robin job, and I'm hoping that it was us and the way we had the machine set up. I hope I don't have an issue with the machine. It's arc scatter, which probably is operator error. I can go from idiot to genius to idiot in about 60 seconds with just about any welder. And so I'm gonna probably get this taken care of. It's gonna have to cool down, I think, before I start welding. But next week it looks like we're gonna get a break in the heat. So that being said, once again, like the videos, subscribe to the videos, hit that notification bell, comment. I look forward to people commenting on it. I try and respond every chance I get. If there's anything that I can do differently or anything like that, just let me know. I'd be glad to take your advice. I appreciate you watching the videos. and I do appreciate you telling your friends to watch them. So with that, Chopper Bob out.